We are live, sir.
Hello, everybody. Greetings from Indian Medical Association. I am Dr. K. Agarwal, President. This lecture is live on our IMA website. The message has gone to all the doctors. And this is also going to be on our IMA file forever as a IMA resource lecture on COVID-19. This time I have Dr. Narottam Puri. Needs no introduction. ENT specialist by profession, commentator in cricket by passion, FICCI Health Committee, working for it for years together as an administrator, guidance, philosopher, corporate affairs, management at Fortis, at international level, at all Fortis group of hospitals. A person who is very clear in his ideas as far as philosophy is concerned, medical and health philosophy is concerned, always comes out with a lateral thinking. And when I wanted to interact with him, and his lateral thinking was that everybody is talking about frontline workers, but nobody is talking about the real people behind the COVID work. We are going to listen to him, the COVID heroes working, which are not seen, unseen or not seen, but they are more like a hero. So let's listen to him, and then I will interact with him for 15 minutes. So over to you, Dr. Puri.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. It's indeed a pleasure being with you. Thank you, IMA, for inviting me for this. The real reason why I thought of this somewhat lateral part of the discussion is that I started questioning who exactly is a hero. And when you are talking about COVID warriors, who is a warrior? We tend to accept anybody who's in the front line as the real soldier. We tend to ignore those who are behind the lines. Let me give you an analogy of the movie industry. Everybody recognizes the hero, the heroine, but the director behind it, very few people realize that, well, it has changed now, but how many of you will know that some of the greatest directors directed some of the big movies and you have no knowledge about it? The only thing you know is the hero was so-and-so, heroine was so-and-so. The same thing happens with music. You tend to remember a great song by a Muhammad Rafi, a Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar, or an Asha Bhosle. But who was the lyricist? Who was the person who composed the music? That is what completes the picture. Let me give you a sports analogy. Everybody talks well about the person who scores a goal in football or hockey. But that might have been just the last minute boot that was used or the stick that was used. Who gave that great pass? Where did the midfield move? In other words, we tend to ignore the contributions of those who are behind the scenes and who do not directly contribute to the success, because we recognize psychologically only those as the heroes who are at the front line at the time of delivery, who are giving the result to you. And that was something that set my mind thinking as far as the COVID pandemic is concerned. Everybody knows that the pandemic cannot be defeated in hospitals. Yet all the heroes that we talk about are situated in the hospitals. Not that they shouldn't be. They are being fitted, they are being honored, and they must be. They are the front line. They are the true warriors who are delivering at the point of care. But there are a large number of people behind them who make it possible for them to deliver the sort of care that is being given today to try and save lives. Today, we have lost about 1.5 million in the world's population. We've suffered an enormous amount of financial distress. We've suffered enormous amount of morbidities. Every day we are learning. And there are men and women behind the success who are making it possible for us to deliver the type of care that we are giving. So, salutations are definitely required for all those who are delivering at the point of care. But I think salutations and doffing of the hat is also required for those who behind the scenes work to make all this happen. They may be very humble in their contributions. You may not even know. But how do you explain the contributions of the person, the ambulance driver who actually took the risk of bringing the person to the hospital in a COVID state? How do you make a contribution about the hospital's director who made things available? How do you make the contributions valid for the politician who made the right policies? We know denigration, derridation, we require nothing to criticize. But we are very, very stingy when it comes to giving accolades where it is due. Remember, if we are going to fight this pandemic, it'll be a team fighting to win. It won't be an individual. This virus or this pandemic will not get defeated by an individual's effort. But many individuals and many teams are combining today to see the sort of success that has never been possible. It's been more than 50 years since my graduation, 52 years since my graduation. I've never ever seen the pace at which the development that has occurred in both the treatment, first of all, in identification of the virus, then the pathology of it and the changes in pathology that came about. That is the etiopathogenesis. Then came the treatment and the revolutions that occurred in diagnosis. And finally, the modifications in treatment. And now we've reached the stage of prevention, which is in the stage of vaccine formations. If I were to ask any one of us, and this included me, who's June Almeida? You'll all say, June Almeida? Don't know. Never read about this lady in our textbooks. You didn't because she wasn't even a doctor. But does it surprise you that she was the first person in 1965 who actually identified the coronavirus? She was actually a technician, an electron microscope technician who, because she wanted to be a doctor, but she was too poor. And at the age of 16, she had to start looking for jobs. She found a job as a lab technician. Finally, she emigrated to Canada, where again, she wasn't qualified as a doctor. She started working in an electron microscopic lab. And it was she who actually first identified what is now recognized as a coronavirus. We all know that there are 7 types of coronaviruses that cause disease in humans. And this coronavirus, which is affecting us, is one of those 7. It is called beta virus, coronavirus beta variety. That is the nCoV-19 which is beta virus. But the fact of the matter is, we don't know who's June Almeida and what her contribution is. She is dead. She was 77. But I think her contributions have left an indelible mark on the field of virology, in the field of electron microscopy. Should we not doff our hats to her? Similarly, we are talking about individuals who are working day and night in labs. Remember the case that for a brief moment attracted the attention of all of us in the newspapers, of that young lady who delayed going to the hospital for her delivery so that the test kit that was being developed by her in a lab, in a small lab in Pune called My Labs, could be ready in time and released. Her name, do you remember? No. The reason is we do not somehow honor these people. Her name, by the way, is Minal Bhosle. She created that kit, delivered it to her boss, and then went into hospital and into labor to develop to deliver her child. Should she not be lauded? Is she not a corona warrior? Is she not somebody that is deserving of the attention that should be given over a longer period of time? Now let's look at some of the others who are working unknown to all of us in the various labs in India. Let's not just go too far across. Have you heard of Vinod Skaria's lab? This is at CSIR IGIB. The kind of work they are doing to try and train people in molecular biology, in RT-PCR testing, without which your lab technicians won't be able to do the RT-PCR test. We are talking about people who have created dry medium coverage. You know that there is a problem about transportation. After the swab sample is taken, it has to be put into a wet medium and then only transported. There is research going on in India, and there are labs which are producing materials and tests which are dry tests, and that is a massive thing. And this is the CCMB lab that is in Hyderabad that is doing this research. And there is no need to have a transfer medium. This is going to revolutionize, particularly in countries like India. Do you know who are the chemists who are doing this? Why don't we? Why are they not warriors? I think this is the kind of thing that our entire psychology needs to change. Our philosophical approach towards recognizing who and who are not heroes must change. And I think whilst we recognize all those who are on the front line, let us not forget all these people who are working at the back. Now let's stick to just the testing. Recently, the Jamia Research Lab came up with a test kit. I don't know whether it will work or not, but I'm just saying we need to doff our hats to people who are at least trying. These are young PhD scientists who are working round the clock in trying to better the lot of us clinicians to deliver better results. This test is called CASIPIT and uses spit, and it is a type of a test which is saliva based, and hopefully it will work. Even if it does not work, maybe there's chance that it will work in the end. Yesterday there was a news report of what is called a Canary Test developed by uh, a Bangalore based lab, and that's supposed to be a very quick test. In 3 minutes you will know you're COVID positive or not. And this is a breath analyzer test. We've heard of this, of course. This test was being tried in Israel, but Indians are working day and night on these. In my eyes, into my mind, they are all COVID warriors. They are all heroes. They are all unsung, unfortunately. Now let's come to some of the people whose names you will hear much more, because many of them now are being touted as potential Nobel Prize winners. One of them is a lady by the name of Catalin Carico. Ever heard of her? Catalin Carico is an interesting story. She's Hungarian by birth, settled down in the United States after doing her graduation, post-graduation in Hungary. And she started working in Temple University in University of Pennsylvania. And she continued to do her research because she really believed in the mRNA technology. Now that rings a bell, doesn't it? Because the mRNA technology is what is being used by Pfizer and by Moderna. In fact, Moderna word is mRNA. So that company is named Moderna mRNA. So Carico, in fact, was so enamored that this has potential to be used for tuberculosis, for viruses, for tumors, that she actually got obsessed. And the university got so fed up of her that actually she was demoted. Her grants were cut off. She's today the senior vice president of Moderna Labs and will probably become a very rich woman, because if this technology succeeds as it is likely to, with 95% efficacy being granted to it, then she will become a heroine. And now she and her colleague, the one who stood by her, who worked with her on mRNA technology, a gentleman by the name of Drew. Let me just see, even it saddens me that I don't know Drew Weissman. Now, there are already reports saying that Carico and Weissman should be nominated for the Nobel Prize. But we don't know. Should we not, if this vaccine is successful, should her contribution and should Weissman's contribution not become as important? Should they not be considered heroes? That is the question uppermost in our mind. Let's take the case of Pfizer's CEO. His name is Albert Bourla. He's a Greek immigrant. Why I think that he deserves to be honored is because this man, as the CEO of Pfizer, had all the resources available with him. But when he delved into making this mRNA technology vaccine was a novelty. This is going to be the first vaccine. In fact, it is the first vaccine which has received the stamp of approval of any government in the world. The UK government gave it first, Bahrain gave it today. So he staked all of his money, the company's money in this, did not take 1 paisa from any government. The US government was prepared to support it, but he did not take. Why? Because he said one simple thing which is stuck in my mind, and that is, I did not take any government grant because I did not want science and science to be affected by politics. Hats off, sir. Salute to you. Whether it works or not, you are a hero, at least in my eyes. Look at BioNTech, the partners of Pfizer. You know, the two who are partners with them are a husband-wife team. Today, you must have read in the papers that this Turkish-born Ugur Sahin has become a billionaire, is amongst the 500 wealthiest men in the world because the stock of BioNTech as a company has gone up by 250%. But again, these are the guys who backed what they believed their scientific talent was. You know, he and his wife, simple people living in a small apartment close to where their factory was or their lab was, and they've been cycling to work. Today he's worth $5.1 billion, but he was cycling to work. He would have probably continued to be happy, just engrossing himself with what he was most interested in doing. So these two Turkish Germans have created something along with Pfizer that you and I might be receiving the benefit of if we get vaccinated by their vaccine. But certainly a large percentage of the world will get vaccinated by the Pfizer vaccine and benefit from it. Look at AstraZeneca, the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. Look at the number of scientists who have devoted their time, energy, and effort in developing what they believe is a vaccine that will work using a chimpanzee adenovirus. People all over the world doing research, majority of these researches come to naught. But at the same time, their zeal, their zest, their drive continues to make them believe in what they are doing because many of them have altruistic reasons. They're not in it for the money. They genuinely believe that they're doing it either for science or they're doing it for humanity. And people who do that in today's world, either for their profession or for humanity, they deserve our thanks and certainly are heroes or heroines in my mind. I could go on and on. Look at the artificial intelligence in in radiology, which has made us change the diagnosis that we were making on CT scans. What we were earlier thinking as pneumonia but now recognized as a vascular event. Aren't they heroes? Did they not help us change the treatment, moving from high doses of antibiotics to actually anticoagulants and to steroids? How is it that the person who is the director of a hospital or the CEO of a company running a private hospital invests or continues to keep the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics on rolls despite having no business? Is he or she not a hero? In my eyes, they all are. I think in a pandemic of this nature, I think it's a team sport that needs to be played. Doctors, by training, are trained to be very good at individual effort. We are not trained to be team players. But and it is necessary because I or you as a doctor must have the ability to take the decision in the split second to tie that tourniquet to stop that gusher from generating too much of blood loss that cannot be recovered. I must have the ability to immediately make a stab in the trachea and allow the person to breathe. That individual effort is required. But progressively, we are finding that historically, those who have worked behind the scenes in the labs, etc., to support us, we've tended to ignore them. Those who have supported us from the administrative side, we've tried to shoo them off, believing that they are an impediment rather than a support. I think over a period of time, in this 1 year that this world has been infested with this particular virus, we have learned that it is team play that is going to bring us results. If we are going to beat this virus, we will do it because of the concentrated collective efforts of a large number of people with all hands on deck. Whether they are the lab technicians, the scientists working in the lab to develop a better test. Now, ID Now test, I don't know how many of you have heard this, the ID Now test by Abbott. It's likely to be introduced in India too. It has already received the approval, EUA approval in United States by FDA. It has received the DGCI nod. It has received the ICMR nod. It's a test that will tell you whether you have COVID or not in 5 minutes. And that is if you're positive. And maximum in 13 minutes if you are negative. This particular test is by Abbott. And only cost is not allowing its introduction in India. They had initially said that it will be 3,000 rupees per test. They've now come down to about 2,700, 2,600. But this is a kind of a test that might well change the way we diagnose the disease. And if we diagnose it quick enough, we will know obviously, we will be able to treat earlier. Feluda, which Tata is supporting, is another such test that needs a lot of attention. The result is possible in about 2 hours, but it's unlike ID Now, which is a kind of a point of care test. I can do it bedside of a patient. Feluda test requires it to be done in a lab. But again, my salutations to the scientists at the labs that worked on this particular test to reduce the time from the 6-8 hours RT-PCR was taking to 2 hours. And number two, more importantly, what they did was they used what is called CRISPR technology. They were able to use the existing RT-PCR machines, which in India we were using primarily for tuberculosis diagnosis, and they started modifying it to use it for RT-PCR. The cost, therefore, could be reduced. So anybody who is working to bring down innovation, it's not necessary the innovation has to be in a new field altogether. Innovation does not mean no innovation in service, no innovation in cost. Everything comes under innovation. So all these scientists who are working, whether they are in tests, whether they are in lab diagnosis, in radiology, in pathology, in treatment. I think all of them deserve to be honored and deserve to be recognized for the work that they've done in ultimately for India and the world to win the war over COVID. I'll stop here, Dr. Agarwal, in case there is something else. I could go on and on, whether it is those who are doing Zycov-D vaccine. I mean, that is a skin patch being used with microneedles. So that's also a new approach to vaccine therapy in India, although it's been used abroad. Genova, which is using an mRNA technology, again, along with the Baylor Institute and HBT Technologies. I mean, the sky's the limit. Yet, somehow, I feel sometimes ashamed that as a frontline clinician, I may be recognized, but the person who made me what I am is not recognized. It's not fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Puri. Dr. Ashokan here. I think he was here and he had to leave in between.
Sir, KK sir,
Yes.
I'm Dr. Narsinga Reddy sir.
Yes, how are you?
Sir,
yes. Kindly make your comments.
Sir, I'm Dr. Narsinga Reddy, the National Vice President of IMA. Sir, KK sir, I really thank you for ordering such a nice webinar, and particularly Dr. Narottam Puri sir, the way he has enlightened us with unsung warriors of Corona. In fact, as IMA, we have been working for with the government and with everybody with the Corona. But sir, we never thought of these unsung heroes or the warriors either directly or indirectly getting associated and fighting for Corona. And Puri sir has rightly put forward, he has really enlightened us and shown us that not only people are direct related, but there are a number of people who are indirectly, or you can say in stage 2 or stage 3, they are working for Corona, and it's our responsibility to really appreciate them and get on board, sir. And one of the things, Puri sir, we have rightly said, it's a time that everybody should get the recognition and everybody should be recognized for such an effort, because now treating Corona or everything is a team effort, and without a team effort and without the binding of a team, I don't think so, sir, we were able to fight this deadly disease. And the way you analyzed it, is really appreciable, because we never got a thought that there's so many people. In fact, there are a number of people who have been associated indirectly. And I was just wondering when I was listening to your talk that even a milk vendor, a person who supplies milk, or a scavenger, or even a plumber, who directly or indirectly were helping when the hospitals needed these people to come in and work. So all these people are definitely, sir, they are the unsung heroes, and really appreciate, sir, the way you put it. Definitely, I go to take this message to all our people across the IMSS. Thank you very much, sir, once again.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I will like to get associated with Dr. Puri if we can build up 50 or 100 names. And I will build up my team. We can actually come out with an atlas, which can be a virtual atlas of unsung heroes in COVID-19, as perceived by we. It's like a cricket, everybody comes forward, my dream 11. So similarly, we can come out with our unsung heroes as perceived, and we can come out with a virtual book. We'll be able to spend some time, Dr. Puri, in identifying these people, just names. My team will search about them, write stories, and then we can come back.
Well, KK, you know, I can never say no to you, but my point is, all this actually came from my heart, not from my head. And I did so because I felt so ashamed that we don't recognize such people.
Great, but if you don't really want to recognize them, it has to be converted into an atlas with a name, and that can stay on the web forever. So we say,
I'll try my best.
Other countries will also try to do it. So the only thing you have to do is to talk to few people and give the names. Then my team will search about them, write stories, editorial work we will do, writing work we will do. But at least identification of names and what they have done. This can be a real good attempt we can make and get it published online as an online atlas of uncertainty. Because once you have already done 30, 40 people's name, so you already have thinking in that line. Every day you may be picking up one person. Just list them, send it to me, and my team will help in developing. It's a very good idea. And maybe 15, 20 we will find from within the country, our country. So all those people.
I'm quite sure, but you'll be surprised. I just typed out on Google search, who was the first scientist who identified this current COVID virus? There is no name. No name available.
Who put a
controversy of that individual who said that it is manufactured in China. There is plenty of it available, but the person who first identified is not available. So what a travesty of justice.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a very good attempt. By the time you said the idea when you gave me, I immediately jumped at it. So I said, this is a very good idea because nobody thinks from that background point of view. We may even honor them from Indian point of view, from an association point of view. And even I will float this idea in my all Asian countries if they have any names to suggest. So we can commit out of that. So salute to you. And for me, you are equally a hero because I always consider you should have received much more than what you have received in terms of recognition at a national level. I would dream to you to be honored with one of the Padma Awards. That's what no, I'm not even taking your opinion for that. I said that's meri dilli ichha uske saath mein. So thank you everybody to be here with us, and thank you Dr. Puri. This lecture will stay in IMA resource library forever, and a link of that goes to every IMA member. And I will make sure that this lecture is at least viewed by 40 to 50,000 people in the next 3 days. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Reddy.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, Ashokan sir couldn't join us because I was with the advocate, so because we are filing this case, so he couldn't join us, sir. But anyways, we'll forward it to him also.
So
thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Vice President is the chair, means President is